My name is Lexi Andrews, and I am the marketing manager here at Pixel. And with that, I'd like to introduce Tanya Call. As a certified Google Analytics expert, Tanya ensures accuracy of data for key client KPIs, including the measured success of design changes, conversion optimizations, and specific customer behaviors. Okay, Tanya, handing it over to you.
Thank you, Lexi, and thank you to everyone who is able to join in on this webinar today. Today, we'll be focusing on optimizing your analytics and tag management systems. So like Lexi said, my name is Tanya Call, and I've been with PixelMEDIA for 3 years now. I'm a digital marketing specialist with a focus in analytics and tag management implementation. I've worked with over 36 clients supporting and managing their analytics and tag management needs to ensure data accuracy for KPI reporting. Since we don't have much time, I'm going to keep this topic high level, so if you have any questions, you can submit them at the end of this webinar or reach out to me via email. Before I begin this webinar, I'd like to bring to your attention Pixel's other DM services and certifications. In addition to analytics and tag management, we also provide services for search engine optimization, paid online advertising, email marketing, and content marketing. There will be upcoming webinars to discuss areas in each discipline as well, so stay on the lookout for those notifications. Today, I will be reviewing 4 topics: the basics and benefits of Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager features and benefits, Google Tag Manager best practices, as well as mistakes to avoid, and an overview of using the data layer for in-depth reporting. The basics and benefits of Google Analytics. I believe that most people joining this webinar are already familiar with Google Analytics, but if you're unfamiliar, Google Analytics is a reporting platform used to analyze your channel acquisition and user behavior. Knowing this data can help you reach your overall business goals by better understanding your customers. To start collecting data, a script is placed on your site, either via Google Tag Manager or directly on the source code that sends website traffic data to your Google Analytics account. If you have a Google Tag Manager instance on your site, Pixel recommends deploying your analytics script through this method. Basics and benefits of Google Analytics. Some benefits to using Google Analytics is to better understand how users are accessing your site, whether it's the device type or acquisition channel, and analyzing the actions they take once they arrive. Using Google Analytics can also help determine what pages need optimization and what pages may have tracking errors. Working with over 36 clients on their analytics, we have found that there's always room for optimizations and enhancements in current reporting. An example of using analytics to determine tracking issues is looking for anomalies. So here's a real-time example of one of our clients that we were tasked to complete an audit of their analytics. When I first started reviewing their reports, I noticed they had an extremely low bounce rate of about 4%. Now, most people would probably think that having a low bounce rate is a good thing, but to an analytics expert, we know that no site is that amazing that very few people are bouncing. So once I started digging in, I found that they were receiving double page view hits on their website. Double page view hits cause a low bounce rate because technically another action is taking place after the initial page view, even if the user left the site right away. And that second action is another page view. So Google Analytics thinks the user took another action and didn't record this session as a bounce. Looking at the screenshot, once the issue was resolved, the bounce rate increased immediately to a more average percentage, around 40%.
What?
Coming back to the benefits of Google Analytics, you can also analyze user behavior for your conversion optimization practice. There are many reports in Google Analytics you can use to support this practice, but I would like to focus on the checkout behavior report. The checkout behavior report lets you analyze user struggles in their checkout journey. Maybe you notice that a high number of users are dropping off at step 1, which you would know to be the checkout login page. Use this data to determine if the page needs to be optimized, maybe with A/B testing, or uncover errors that is limiting the user from proceeding to the next step. Google Analytics is also a great tool for custom reporting. You can easily set up custom reports and dashboards to analyze your brand's KPIs and even schedule reports to send out to colleagues or executives. I also want to point out that Google Analytics should only be used for reporting trends. And if you try to compare Google Analytics data to either your CRM data or another analytics tool, it most likely will not match up. And that is due to the infamous sampling done by Google Analytics. If you are a 360 user, Google Analytics does offer unsampled reports. Or if you'd like to know more about sampling, I provided a resource link at the end of this webinar. Google Tag Manager features and benefits. Google Tag Manager is a free tag management tool used to enable marketers to easily manage their marketing and analytics tracking scripts in one centralized location. Using Google Tag Manager, you now have the reign to add scripts such as Facebook and Criteo to your site without needing a developer. When I say without needing a developer, it will be assumed that you already have a data layer in place tracking appropriate data for these tags. With that also said, you should be knowledgeable of the risk to adding scripts to your site without proper QA, which we will discuss in later slides. Now that we have a basic understanding of what Google Tag Manager is, you may be wondering how this can benefit your business. Some great features and benefits include quicker time to go live with little, if any, development time needed. This allows you to work more closely with your conversion optimization practice and other departments to quickly publish third-party and event tags for testing and collecting data. Since Google Tag Manager updates don't rely on a release schedule, you can now publish tracking updates as soon as they've been tested using the preview and debug panel in unison with developer tools. The preview and debug panel feature in Google Tag Manager, which is shown on the image on this slide, allows you to test your tags and ensure they are firing correctly before publishing to your live site. Google Tag Manager best practices and mistakes to avoid. With completing a mix of over 3 dozen GTM migrations, stand-ups, and support work, Pixel has compiled a list of Google Tag Manager best practices and mistakes to avoid while working with the tool. One of the most important best practices is user permissions. Pixel recommends limiting publish access to only a few key users. This makes it easier to manage the container and reduces the risk of users publishing tags without fully testing their work. This leads me to the next best practice, which is procedures. Each account should have a tag deployment plan in place for QA before going live. Pixel's procedure is to use a tagging plan to review tags on a sandbox environment first, and if no errors are thrown, then publish to the live site and test again. As I just mentioned, we recommend using a tagging plan that other coworkers and/or agencies also have access to. A tagging plan is a document used to organize your tags and understand the tracking available in your container and Google Analytics reports. The last best practice I'm going to cover is the structure of your Google Tag Manager account and container. So looking at the screenshot on this slide, Pixel recommends using one account per company and one container per site. If you have multiple domains under the same business, utilize a separate container. You should also use separate containers for staging and production sites. The only risk with this method is not fully transitioning over all of your tags from your staging container into your production container. So you must be very aware if you choose this method. But using a separate container for staging and production sites make it much easier to test tags and reduces the risk of deploying tags to production before they are ready. The data layer. All right, due to the data layer being very complex, I'll keep this topic high level, but I'm happy to answer any questions at the end of this webinar. Google Tag Manager functions best alongside a data layer. A data layer is a JavaScript object that is used to pass information from your site to your Google Tag Manager container. Pixel utilizes a data layer for enhanced e-commerce tracking, which opens up in-depth reporting in your Google Analytics reports. Some information you can pass in the data layer include product information, customer information such as user type, transactional data, and other data that can be used for custom dimension reporting. In this screenshot, you can see that we are collecting data for product attributes, which is sent to Google Analytics. We are also collecting user type data and other data that is used for third-party tracking. Before we get to questions, I wanted to talk briefly about Einstein Analytics. So as you mature in your analytics data practice, one thing you should consider is Einstein Analytics, which was launched in 2017. Einstein Analytics is a new discovery tool from Salesforce that lets you visualize your data all in one place from many different data sources. Great, I want to thank you all for joining this webinar, and if you have any questions, you can please submit them now. And if we aren't able to respond to your questions in this webinar, we will make sure to follow up. All right, looks like we have one question. Does the order of tags in Google Tag Manager impact how they fire? All right, this is a great question. So Google Tag Manager fires any tags in the container asynchronously. So as soon as whichever tag in the container is ready to load, Google Tag Manager will load it on the site, so it doesn't have to wait for another tag to load before firing a tag. With that said, you can sequence your tags. So if you have your, for example, a Facebook base code, which loads on all pages of your site, but you also have another Facebook event that you want to track, and you need to make sure that the base code fires before the event, you can set the tag sequence so that the base code loads before the event tag. All right, we have another question. Do you recommend placing the Google Analytics tag within Google Tag Manager? And are there advantages or disadvantages to either setup? So yes, we recommend adding your Google Analytics script through Google Tag Manager. And we recommend that just because, so the point of having a Google Tag Manager account is to have all of your scripts in one centralized location, like I mentioned. So with having your Google Analytics script coming from Google Tag Manager, one huge advantage that I see to that is you are able to add any custom dimensions, content groupings, any other data that you're looking to send to Google Analytics. You can add that to the tag template in Google Tag Manager and easily send this data to your Google Analytics account without needing a developer to modify the script on the back end, as long as the data is available in the data layer to pull from. All right, looks like we have another question. Where is the best area to look for spam traffic in your Google Analytics reports? This is also another great question. So Google Analytics does, at the view level, they do offer a feature that you can exclude bots from your reports. These are all known bots to Google Analytics. So every single day, there will be new bots that will be showing in your reports. So that feature may not block out everything. So what we recommend, one of the best spots to look for spam would be your network reports, specifically the hostname report. If you are seeing other host names besides your domain in there, it is safe to assume that that is bot traffic, that they are using your analytics ID on their site, and you don't want that data in your account. So I would recommend looking at the hostname report as well as service providers, and look for any metrics that either have no, if you have an e-commerce site, that have no transactions, have a bounce rate of 100 and have a bounce rate of 100%, have 0 pages per session, and all of these metrics have to be used together. You can't single out a single source with only a few of those boxes checked off, and they also need to be coming from the direct channel. All right, looks like we have another question. Can you talk a little bit about exporting or importing containers for transitioning to another account or backup? So I'm going to assume, so when I was talking about using separate containers for your staging site and your production site, an easy way, so there is a tool, and I will provide that when we send out this webinar. I'll include some tools that I use all the time that really make my life a lot easier. I'll make sure that I add that to this slide. So there is a tool, it's a Chrome extension that you can easily, you literally right click over the tag, the variable, or the trigger, or all three, and you copy and paste it into this Chrome extension, and then you just have to navigate into your production container or the container you are looking to add these tags to, and you simply just paste it, and it imports all of the information exactly how you had the tag set up in the container it was copying from. But you can also export or import containers or workspaces into another container, which is a feature at the container setting level in Google Tag Manager. So it's really, if you're just looking to migrate over maybe just one tag or trigger, I would recommend using the Chrome extension. If you are moving over a whole container of tags, then I would definitely recommend using the Google Tag Manager import-export feature. All right, looks like we have one more question. What interactions can you track with Google Tag Manager? So in Google Tag Manager, you can track almost any interaction that a user will take on your website. You can track clicks on a link, you can track form submissions, you can track scrolling depth, you can track element visibility. Really anything. If it can't be tracked with certain triggers in Google Tag Manager, then you can use custom events to set up in the data layer to track any other information that may be useful for your KPI reporting.
Okay, that seems like everything got answered. If anyone else has any more questions, just feel free to reach out and Tanya will get back to you. So we just want to thank everyone for listening. So thank you all very much.